Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Elena and today we are talking about self-discipline. I think we've all experienced at one point or another what it's like to just be a little bit unhappy with your life and want to make some positive changes to become more of your best self. Of course, you come up with some habits. Maybe it's waking up earlier, maybe it's staying active more consistently or eating better, and just generally wanting to make faster progress towards our life goals. But inevitably, we at some point start to feel unmotivated. We're too tired, or we just feel like we're not disciplined enough to stick to the things that we had set out to do. And so we fall back into our old routines and patterns. Life stays the same. You continue to complain about the same things you've been complaining about for the past 3 years, all while watching others make progress and wishing that you could be that kind of person too. Spoiler alert, you don't have to be a specific type of person, especially not a naturally disciplined person, in order to find consistency, set up strong routines, and ultimately build a life that you love. You just don't. In fact, there's a quote I love from this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it reads, "Disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. The people with the best self-control are typically the ones who need to use it the least." And then on the next page, he also adds, "Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one." Plus, while I believe that everyone's relationship with discipline is a unique one, I personally sit in the camp of believing that discipline sucks. Now, I know I just shared a quote about self-control and related it to discipline, and while I do think that there is some correlation there, I also believe that they are different. As a side note, I'm about to go through a couple of different definitions, and while I realize that these can seem like they're just like silly little semantics, I do feel that words are powerful. Words can completely change the way that we approach things, and I also think it's important for us to be on the same page while we're discussing these types of topics. So, according to Google, self-control is defined as the ability to control oneself, in particular one's emotions and desires, or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult situations. Similarly, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines it as restraint exercised over one's own impulses, emotions, or desires. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's important. If we want to be emotionally mature human beings, I think we do need to know how to exercise self-control in certain difficult situations and not let our initial reactions get the best of us. And then on the other hand, we have discipline, which Google defines as the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. And Merriam-Webster defines it as control gained by enforcing obedience or order. Now, when we look at the definition of self-discipline, it does feel a lot more related to self-control. But for me, the fact that it still contains the word discipline in there just automatically brings up this connotation of punishment, obedience, and correction. I don't know, it just reminds me of like a stern parental figure, like wagging their finger in your face and looking down on you and being like, no, 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 you're being bad, or you're wrong, or whatever. And that just doesn't feel like a healthy way to relate to yourself. It's not the kind of relationship that I aspire to have with myself, and it doesn't feel really conducive to fostering self-love, or even self-respect for that matter. And look, that might not be the case for you. Maybe the word discipline doesn't carry any of these like negative, harsh feelings for you as it does for me. And if so, that's great. There's probably a lot of the like typical discipline advice out there that really works for you. And if it works, then it works. But if you're like me and you know that self-discipline just brings up like these icky feelings and like doesn't feel good in your body, but you still want to be able to stick to your habits, I have an alternative for you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch out self-punishment for self-love, and instead of discipline, we're going to use the word devotion. Now, I promise this is going to be the last definition I do in this video. According to Google, devotion, love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause. It's about dedication and loyalty, and I think sometimes this word can carry a bit of like a religious connotation, but I'm not religious and I don't see it that way at all, and you don't have to either. You simply need to identify and know what you are choosing to devote yourself to. What are you dedicated to? What are you going to be loyal to? Let me give you an example. So a number of years ago, back when I was in university, I struggled to maintain any sort of consistent exercise routine or even just move my body on a regular basis. When you're studying in university, there's a lot of just like sitting in lectures for 3 hours, hunched over on your laptop all the time, writing your papers. And I wasn't a part of any like sports teams or clubs or anything like that. So I didn't have like accountability to a group or anything. And so I would go through phases of working out pretty consistently and really well for like a couple of weeks, and then just falling off for a month and not doing anything. And then I'd like do a little bit of yoga here and there. It was just all over the place. And I felt like I needed better discipline to stick to a routine, to go to the gym or to go to yoga classes. And I found that the times that I was able to be consistent for any kind of significant stretch of time, it kind of came from a place of I don't know, it really didn't come from like a loving place. Once I realized that working out, moving my body was really about so much more than just like my health or the way I looked or any of those typical things that we kind of use to try and motivate ourselves, I started realizing that to me, moving my body was a form of like self-love, self-worship, of really like appreciating the body that you have and doing things that like feel good physically in your body, taking care of it. This is gonna sound cheesy because I think we've all heard this at some point, but like treating it like it's like your temple, right? Like your body is the temple. It's the vehicle that drives everything that you have to offer to the world. And so it's so important to keep that running smoothly, and also pairing it with like more than just physical health and recognizing the mental health benefits was also so helpful for me. And so in that case, I was devoted to myself. I was devoted to self-love, to self-appreciation, to honoring my body, to thanking my body for everything it does for me by giving it back some love in the form of movement. And I wasn't too strict about whether that looked like yoga or a gym workout or going for a run or like whatever the case is. Some days it was just simply a walk. But now I'm at the point where physical movement is really like not something I have to think about too much. It just kind of naturally happens. I usually do morning yoga. Now with Cookie, getting a puppy is a great way to just hack your way to forcing yourself to go for more walks every day. And now moving my body just feels like such a natural part of my life that it doesn't even feel like something I need self-discipline for at all, which is how successful habits should truly feel. So now I am also starting to apply this same line of thinking to cooking. Cooking is not fun for me. It's not something I particularly enjoy. I just kind of do it because, you know, you have to eat. Now that I'm trying to reframe the act of like preparing a home-cooked meal and giving myself some more fruits and veggies and doing all of this stuff that's like good for my body, reframing that as devotion to myself, to loving myself, to caring for myself, to being responsible and taking accountability for my body and the way I feel has really helped, as opposed to just feeling like I have to be disciplined and make home cooked meals all the time and do all this stuff. Like it really just brings a different energy to it. And so you too can apply this to so many different areas of your life. Like I said, devotion to the temple that is your body, to the mind that is your tool of contribution if you're thinking of like meditation or something as a habit. Dedication to your soul that craves self-expression. What are you doing that's a habit that practices your creativity and lets you self-express in the world? Devotion to the environment that supports you in living your best life by, you know, making sure your space is clean and tidy. To the relationships that add richness and depth in your life. And yes, this is not really the same approach as like the rah-rah, high energy approach to motivation that we might expect, but maybe it's exactly the approach that we need. Maybe approaching self-improvement from a lens of self-love is exactly the missing piece you need in order to get your habits, routines, and other changes in your life to stick. Maybe you don't need to go harder. Maybe you actually need to go softer with more understanding, compassion, and forgiveness for yourself. After all, if being hard on yourself worked, it would have worked by now. And to be clear, this doesn't mean that we like slack off or don't put in any hard work. It just means that we approach the actions we take with a different energy, from a different place of intention. So what does something like habit formation look like when it comes to doing it from a place of discipline versus a place of devotion? Let's talk about it. For me personally, when I try to approach things from a place of discipline, it really feels like being hard on yourself. It feels like treating yourself like some child who doesn't know what's best for her. It feels like needing to punish yourself for falling off track, and always prioritizing consistency above all else, no matter what else is going on in your life. When I work on habit formation through the lens of devotion, on the other hand, it feels like being kind to yourself, like treating yourself like someone you love and respect and honor. It's about having compassion for yourself when you inevitably at some point will hit a bump in the road. And it's also about keeping in mind and really making sure to continuously prioritize your long-term best interests. That last one I think is particularly important because we have a tendency to assume that the best habits are the ones that we have been doing for the longest time, that we do super consistently without missing a single day. But I think it's also important to remember that over time, as things in your life change, as you go through different seasons in life, what the best habit or routine is for us might very well change. And it's important that we don't stick to something just for the sake of consistency, but we're always kind of taking that feedback and reflecting and thinking, is this still the best habit to get me to where I want to be? And I think that's the wonderful thing about devotion, is that it keeps your true purpose and intentions top of mind so that you're not doing things just for the sake of doing them, but that you are able to notice any of those natural shifts in what you need in order to truly and authentically align yourself with your happiest, best life. I would be so curious to hear from you what your thoughts on this are. What is your relationship with discipline like? And does this switch to devotion sound like something that would be helpful for you? I would love to continue the conversation in the comments below, so let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching. I am new to YouTube, so if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more content like this. I would so appreciate it. That's all for today, and I will see you next week. Bye.